Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Chapter 51. You want to kill me, because of this. After hearing this, Rayleigh suddenly felt incredible. Wait, how do you know Raftel's prophecy? Shaki told you. Loya grinned evilly. Haha, after all, I am so close to her. Wrong. Rayleigh shook her head. You wanted to kill me first, and then you came here and captured Yuan Chi. So the news was definitely not revealed to you by Shaki. And the reason why you didn't trade Shaki's life for my life. Or use other insidious ways to hurt my life, but fight me one-on-one in a fair fight to the death. Not out of kindness or morality. Just because, you know, Haki can only grow at the fastest speed in battle. Especially Conqueror's Haki. Armed colors and knowledge colors can be strengthened through training, but Conquerors can only be controlled and cannot become stronger through training. Only in a battle with a strong person who also possesses Conquerors can it possibly grow. After Loya heard this, he smiled helplessly. You old monsters. Point 24. Are people's abilities so disgusting? After all, I have experienced so much and seen so many people and things. Rayleigh sighed. It's just that, as an old man, I still can't accept it. You want to kill me just because I accepted the prophecy. With all due respect, you and I should follow and uphold this fate. It is the best outcome for the whole world. A look of ridicule appeared on Loya's face. The child of destiny brings change to the world's heroic view of history and view of destiny. But in the civilized environment I lived in, people believed that man can conquer nature. People also believe that the masses are the shapers of history, not one or two heroes. Only when everyone can rely on their own strength to change their unfair fate can there be true fairness and freedom. Forget it. Different ways don't work together. It's useless to talk about it any further. Only a successful king can defeat Kor. Loya didn't waste any more words, chuckled, and jumped to kill. 9-year star ring. Jumped into the air, 10 meters away from Rayleigh, and struck out with a sword. 9 white sword energies form 9 interlaced concentric star rings, which expand outward at different angles. The swordsmanship of this 9-year star ring is obtained by absorbing the powerful swordsmanship of the Golden Lion and upgrading the star ring move. 9 star ring sword energies cover the sky and the earth, making it almost impossible to dodge. You can only use a large area of defense, or sword energies of the same strength and quantity. Pluton X. Rayleigh was surprised by Loya's superb swordsmanship and immediately showed his true skills to deal with it. He struck twice in the air towards the bright sword energy that was coming towards him. 2 black sword energy form a crossed X. Pure emission sword energy. Loya watched this scene. Although it is also a black sword aura, it does not have any Conqueror's aura or black thunder. Sure enough, not everyone can learn this trick of avoiding gods. Loya thought. Plutonx's move is used to defend against the sword energy of the 9-year star ring, but it is just right. X's 2 pure black emission Haki, like 2 arms, hold up the 9 star rings like a line spectrum. After a moment of stalemate in midair, the 2 collapsed due to lack of follow-up power. 9 glory split star ring. Loya followed up with another sword move. But it's a change from the previous move. Almost the same 9 super large star ring sword energy struck Rayleigh head on again. Pluton. Rayleigh noticed that Loya's sword move was slightly different from before. But I don't know what's wrong. He had to deal with it with one more sword than X. Pluton is the 3 emission sword energy. Boom. This time it was really different. After the 2 sword energies collided, they immediately caused a sword energy explosion. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Immediately afterwards, small crescent sword energy 1 meter wide shot out from the boiling white steam. Crack. So that's what it means. The large sword energy of the star ring will automatically explode after encountering strong resistance and turn into countless small sword energy. Rayleigh quickly waved the long sword in her hand, blocking all the small sword energies that were attacking her. 27 glory split star ring. Loya swung his sword again. Today he not only wants to kill Rayleigh, but also integrates the skills he learned from Golden Lion. The first thing to practice is the Golden Lion's unparalleled swordsmanship. But it is the principle of, put me first and be used by me. Only learn the Tao of Golden Lion swordsmanship instead of directly using the moves of Golden Lion. Therefore, these sword moves are all developed from Loya's own sword skills. 27 yaos or 3 times as much as 9 yaos. This time the sword energy was almost overwhelming. The bright sword light almost blinded everyone's eyes. Pluton W. Rayleigh fired 4 emission sword energy this time, forming a W-shaped pure black sword energy. But after the roar of the explosion, there were more small sword energy than the last time, so densely packed that it made people feel trypophobia. Old Rayleigh, never tired of it. He didn't hesitate to spend more energy to cover his whole body with jet black armed color, and waved his sword to block. 81 Glory Split Star Ring. After accumulating power, Loya stands on the ground. Another sword swung out in the air. The 81 bright super large star ring-shaped sword energy shot out, almost forming a sphere. Then it spread rapidly. Along the way, the sword energy below tore and shattered the earth. Such swordsmanship. 643. This Loya. Rayleigh was shocked. This level of swordsmanship can definitely rank among the top 3 in the world. And Loya's age seems to be only in her early 20s. Such age, such sword skills. How could Rayleigh not be frightened? Pluton's shield. Rayleigh knew how powerful it was, so she charged up and shouted loudly, using all her strength. His feet crushed the earth. Both hands hold a long sword. A sudden sword strike swung out in advance. A 3-meter-long, vertical pure black sword energy quickly spread out in all directions after being swung out. A pure black oval shield was formed, nearly 2 meters wide and 5 meters long. But being beaten and suppressed all the time is not Rayleigh's personality. The reason why Rayleigh is called Pluton is not only because of the name of his moves, but also because among his moves, the moves that kill enemies dominate. Defense is not his strong point. Attack and teamwork are his strengths. Drink. After wielding the Pluton shield, Rayleigh let out a loud shout again. The body spun 9 times on the spot and then suddenly stopped, holding the sword in both hands, and swung out the sword. Pluton Dragon Snake. A big black snake jumped out from Rayleigh's sword. His Haki use is so skillful and powerful. It's possible. Haki chemical. Chapter 52. In fact, wielding Haki with sword energy is the initial form of Haki's transformation. But to condense and control Haki into the form of Pluton Dragon Snake, only talent and 10 years of hard training can do it. Rayleigh believes that although he also possesses Conqueror's Haki, he is ultimately far inferior to Roger, Whitebeard and other unique talents. Therefore, he put more energy on the practice of armament Haki. Loya is at the center of the sky full of sword energy. Unable to see, the top powerhouse can cause huge damage to the surroundings with every move. Therefore, the line of sight will always be blocked. Therefore, judging the situation by seeing, hearing and color is an essential skill for top experts. Rayleigh used a Pluton shield to make Loya's 81 Glory Split Star Ring useless. Loya has secretly admired the senior's use of Haki. And when Rayleigh used Pluton Dragon Snake non-stop, the highly condensed violent armament Haki, and this Haki's agile attack posture, Loya couldn't help but feel surprised. Loya, who was charging up and preparing to use 180-year split star ring, sensed the strong attack posture of Pluton Dragon Snake. I knew I needed to change my tactics. It's a pity. Single quote. The rhythm of my split star ring has been disrupted. As expected of an old-timer, he knew that my momentum with one sword was stronger than the other, so he made a prompt decision and interrupted my rising momentum. But the Star Ring series of sword moves are actually the main defense sword moves. The Star Ring is attacking in all directions, using attack instead of defense. A covering sword style that attacks a large area. Since the old man interrupted the Star Ring series, it's just right to switch to the Dragon Scale series that focuses on one direction. Temporary optimization Zadao. Although a lot of thoughts passed through my mind. But in reality, the time is less than an instant. Loya activated temporary optimization branch knife and the long sword in his hand grew 18 small blades in an instant. It's like branches growing out of a big tree. Therefore, it is called cut. The Dragon Scale series sword moves, combined with this special branch knife, can make Loya spend less effort and maximize the scale and power of the moves. Face the incoming black Haki snake. Loya looked up and swung his sword upward. 3,000 dragon scales, 3,000 palm-sized silver-white dragon scale sword energy merged into a silver torrent. It attacked the black hockey snake like a giant dragon spiraling into the sky. Pure sword energy. In terms of strength, it is naturally difficult to compare with the black snake formed by compressing hockey. But it doesn't mean that he will lose to hockey black snake in terms of strength. The powerful sword energy can easily split a large dog. It's because the power is strong enough. 3000 dragon scale sword energy, each piece carries the huge power to split solid stone. 3000 dragon scales merged into one, and the majestic force they carried could not crush the hockey black snake, but in an instant, it flew the hockey black snake hundreds of meters into the air. And it is still continuing to rise. Rayleigh immediately felt that the distance was too far and lost control of this hockey. 9000 dragon scales. Carrying the momentum of the first sword, Loya dodged in midair and swung his sword in the direction of Rayleigh. Dragon scales. This time it's a sword move from the Dragon Scale series. Rayleigh looked ahead in surprise. Like a huge water column, the torrent of sword energy was rushing towards him, and he couldn't help but feel tense all over. This kid, is he pouring out his power crazily with every move? Is he sure that I am old and incapable of doing anything? Snort. Pluten, don't move the clock. Rayleigh squatted down, holding the sword in both hands, and thrust the sword edge toward the ground. Because after half squatting down, Rayleigh's body shape is similar to a curled up state, so in this posture, he can wrap emission hockey 1 foot around his body, forming an absolutely defensive emission sphere. Moreover, because his emission is in a high-speed flow state, it carries a powerful, unloading force. When the torrent of Loya's 9000 dragon scale sword chi bombarded his model bell, the direction was immediately reversed by this powerful, unloading force. Rumble. Most of the silver sword energy surges towards the distance at an angle of 45 degrees. Only about 10% of it was scattered towards the sky or other directions. Just like a fish man twisting a stream of water, he reverses the torrent of sword energy. As expected of an old-timer, combat experience is rich. Loya was recharging his strength for a move. Looking at this scene, he couldn't help but think. Rumble, rumble, far away. The nearly 8000 dragon scale sword energy that poured out seemed to have hit the 13GR Yarchman mangrove tree. This caused this giant tree with a diameter of several hundred meters to tremble. That's 1,000 meters away. Loya's small dragon scale-like sword energy can fly so far, and does it still have amazing destructive power? Fortunately, it was just a hit, otherwise the entire Yarchman mangrove tree would have been cut off, right? Rayleigh thought, and slowly stood up. Isn't your next move like the square one going well enough? Rayleigh said to Loya with a smile. Just now, he was keenly aware that Loya seemed to have some setbacks in the process of accumulating power, and the rising momentum was interrupted. Hearing this, Loya couldn't help but be startled. Then he grinned. As expected of an old-timer, you can see that. But, it's just because I saw you, senior, wrapped around emission's immobile clock, and felt my next move. 36,000 dragon scales should be in vain. There was a pause. Loya smiled and continued. Senior, why don't you take advantage of this opportunity to deal with me? Is it because you just used a lot of hockey continuously and you need to take a rest? Rayleigh suddenly laughed. Ah, kid, I have to say, you make me feel very stressed. Fine. Loya grinned. As long as the old man says so, I will definitely set aside time for the old man to take a rest. Ha ha, are you so kind? Rayleigh pushed up the glasses on the bridge of her nose. Or, are you worried that you will kill me all at once? For a long time, there will be no strong person of this level who can fight against and help you grow. Loya's smile expanded instantly. Ha ha, senior, it turns out that ginger is still spicy when you are old. Loya smiled happily, freed up his left hand and pressed it on his chest. Temporary optimization jauntization. Temporary optimization great sword transformation. Loya's next changes. Rayleigh was stunned. The changing Loya was still talking. Rayleigh. Old timer. Not only will I not give you any way out, I won't give myself any way out. You see me in this form. You will want to understand some things. So, in order to keep the secret, Zhao I will kill you. Loya's voice became louder and louder little by little as he changed. Kanu has strong eyesight and can see a large area from a tree hundreds of meters high. Leaving him in the Yarchman mangrove tree is not only to protect Shaki. It also includes killing everyone who comes within a few kilometers of the vicinity. Or remind Loya in time when someone special arrives. Giant. Rayleigh looked at the giant Loya, who was more than 10 meters tall, and a little cold sweat could not help but flow from his forehead. Giants are not scary, but when Loya turns into a giant, Rayleigh realizes that this might not be good. The sword in Loya's hand, the branch sword, has also become a giant sword that matches his size. He held the sword in both hands and slowly raised the blade. 100,000 dragon scales Hakoku. That's right. The Elbaf giants have a big move called Hakoku that requires two people to work together. Loya once went to Little Garden, found Blue Ogre Dory and Red Ghost Brigi, fought with them, injured and healed them. Loya incorporated the Hakoku move into swordsmanship. The power of one blow. The island can be destroyed. Chapter 53. 100,000 dragon scales Hakoku. Giant Loya, swinging his sword. The silvery white sword energy torrent, with incredible speed and power, pours out from between the blades of the branch knife. Crash, boom, boom. In an instant, the earth seemed to be peeled off. From 1 centimeter, to 10 centimeters, to 1 meter, to 3 meters, to 10 meters. With the impact and expansion of the torrent of sword energy, the earth is peeled away bit by bit. Earth and rocks were thrown away. Then in the densely packed silver-white dragon scale sword energy, turned into powder. Pluten triple shield. Pluten move the clock. Rayleigh looked extremely solemn. The hockey contained in the body, squeezed out without reservation. Therefore, a little leaked hockey instantly shattered the ground. Countless clods of soil around him are free of gravity, soaring into the sky. Rayleigh swings 3 swords in a row. Split out 3 pure black sword energy. 3 pure black sword energies instantly transformed into 3 sides. An oval shield, 2 meters wide and nearly 5 meters high. Hockey shield in front. Rayleigh is not enough. He knelt down, took the long sword in his hand. Plug it into the ground. Hockey circulates and accelerates throughout the body. Wrapped within 1 foot, forming a high-speed rotating emission clock. Buzz buzz buzz. The entire Sabayati archipelago is trembling. The harsh buzzing sound rose in an instant and turned into an astonishing ultrasonic wave. Yarchman mangroves all over the island. Everyone was trembling. The bubbles floating on the top of the giant tree exploded one after another. A manned ship, a newly coated bubble. It exploded directly on the spot. 797 Rayleigh squinted her eyes. In his eyes at this moment, the world is silvery white. All around are terrifying torrents of dragon scale sword energy. Click, click, click. 3 crackling sounds passed into Rayleigh's knowledgeable ears. His 3 Pluten shields. In this unparalleled storm of sword energy, in an instant, they were broken one after another. Then, boom sizzling. Ah, even if Rayleigh still has a layer of emission hockey defense that doesn't move the clock. But, the first is the unparalleled terrifying impact. That is to say, his whole body together with emission cannot move the clock. They all pushed back quickly. And, in the process, Rayleigh was shocked to discover. He winds up the difficulty of emission. It suddenly became many, many times more difficult. Because, when the water flow far exceeds the load, will destroy the machine that loads them. Emission wrapped around Rayleigh by the incomparable torrent of sword energy. Peel it off bit by bit. His immobile clock, set in the face of 2 majestic torrent. There is no way to reverse the direction of the torrent. Rayleigh could only grit her teeth and let out a long, low hiss in her throat. He desperately drained himself of hockey, constantly filling. Emission is peeled away bit by the torrent of sword energy. 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, 200 meters. Rayleigh put her feet behind her and squatted halfway. With the terrifying torrent of sword energy constantly being pushed and sliding backward. It sounds like the process is very long. But in fact, Rayleigh slid back 10 meters from being pushed, until he was pushed 500 meters away. The whole process, it only takes less than 2 seconds. It's just that the strong man's thinking and movements are as fast as ultimate. In their perception, the flow of time, it's a completely different experience than normal people. Just like you have a 2G mobile phone memory, with a 12G mobile phone memory. The speed at which information flow is processed One sky and one earth. After Rayleigh was pushed 500 meters away, Rayleigh finally felt the pressure has been reduced a lot. Because 100,000 dragon scales Hakoku's sword energy torrent and powerful wind pressure. It spreads in a cone shape. Further back, the intensity and power of the wind pressure and sword energy torrent will become smaller. So, despite the emission wrapped around Rayleigh, compared to the initial amount of Haki, only about 1/3 is left. But he is still unharmed. Defended this terrifying wave of offensive. Buzz buzz, the aftermath of the torrent of sword energy, leaving waves of harsh buzzing in the air. No. 13 Gr Yarchman Mangrove. Ah. Kanu stared at this scene from afar. Eyes widened, let out a hoarse weird laugh. But if anyone sees his appearance, you will find he was in a state of extreme surprise and admiration. If he can still express his thoughts fluently now, then what he wants to say must be, is this the power of the master? This is the power of the master. The master's power is so incredible that I can't help but kneel down and worship. Golden Lion holds a thick iron chain in his hand, flying leisurely in the sky. A few hundred meters above and diagonally in front of you is what is hidden in the clouds. Golden Lion flying battleship, and tied underneath the thick chain. It's two figures. Eustace Kid with a bounty of 315 million. Kira with a bounty of 162 million. Both of them were covered in blood at this moment. Looking unconscious. The state of Chi is like a gossamer. Humph. 2 brats. It's true that if you don't eat the toast, you will be punished with a drink. We'll see how I deal with you later. I don't believe in my methods. I still can't tame you. Shiki was filled with anger when he thought of Kid's disdainful refusal a few hours ago. Today's new generation is really a bunch of brats who have never experienced thunder. Humph. I don't have any skills, but I have quite a temper. Golden Lion thought to himself, and was about to fall on the Golden Lion. Sudden. Buzz buzz buzz. What's the noise? Shiki turned and looked. Thousands of meters away. A white rainbow extends from the Sabayati archipelago. Then slowly disappear. Has this magnitude of atmospheric vibrations reached me? Shiki's eyes flickered twice with surprise. By the way, that kid Loya, what are you doing now? Loya just said he was responsible for blocking Rayleigh. It was not said when it would be stopped. Not to mention that his method of blocking was to directly kill Rayleigh. What's going on there? I'll send these 2 brats to custody first, and then I'll go take a look. Located in a villa at number 43 Gr, Sabayati Land, in the Tourist and Souvenir District. Bartholomew Kuma felt the slight venom in the house and ground. There was no expression on the stiff face. His eyes flickered. Immediately, he closed the book and stood up. He strode out of the room. Arrived at the door, feeling the direction of the earthquake, he turned his head in the direction of Gr number 10 to 19. Bo. After a slight sound of bubbles exploding, Bartholomew Kuma's figure disappeared on the spot. A Buster Call class marine warship is quickly heading towards the marine garrison area and port of Sabayati Archipelago Gr 60 to 69. On the huge destroyer cannon on the bow, Admiral Kizaru, standing on the muzzle with fluttering clothes. Buzz buzz. A white rainbow overturned the sea surface, and the vibrating buzz of the atmosphere reached Kizaru's ears. It's really scary. Is it the Golden Lion that made the noise? Oh, the legendary pirate. It's really scary. Although Sengoku ordered that there be no need to conflict with the Golden Lion. But you can't ignore it completely. Kizaru Admiral was sent to beat the soy sauce as a deterrent. In case the Golden Lion goes too far, hurts innocent people, and causes too much damage. After all, although there have been no celestial dragons coming to the island of Sabayati recently, there are still many celestial dragons and marine industries. And the illegal assets secretly provided to marine. These properties, as well as wealthy businessmen, need protection. After Kizaru noticed the movement, although he said it was scary, the next moment, he still is, turned into a bright yellow light. Fly towards the direction of the source of the white rainbow. Chapter 54. Huchi. Rayleigh was breathing heavily, her body already wet with sweat. However, there was a smile on his face. How many years has it been since you were in this situation? I really miss it. Rayleigh grinned and slowly stood up from the ground. He glanced at the destroyed land. Only in the land behind him, there is still a fan-shaped, relatively intact area. The surrounding ground is several hundred meters wide and several kilometers long. All were stripped of a large piece of land. At the deepest point, there are quite a few treasures. What a scary little devil. Redhead, you have a rival. Rayleigh thought to herself and glanced at Loya from a distance. But I saw that he still maintained his giant form, carrying a huge sword Zadao, striding towards his position. Every step you take is accompanied by a slight earthquake. Leave a big footprint on the ground. Loya also has an excited and hearty smile. Rayleigh, you will get stronger when you get older. You can even withstand this move of mine without getting hurt. As expected of the Pirate King's right arm. But I still have a sword here. You want to take a rest before taking my sword again. Still, Loya said this, but was interrupted by Rayleigh with a smile. Rayleigh's eyes are burning with excitement and fighting spirit. Who are you looking down on, kid? Back when I was crossing the sea. You haven't even been born yet. Loya was startled when he heard this. Immediately he couldn't help but grin. No, it's not a good thing to be entrusted with college. But since you are so enthusiastic, boy, of course I can't dampen the senior's interest. Loya carries the sword with one hand. Stop. Front legs bent. The hind legs are stretched straight, with the toes touching the ground. Made the starting position before running. Then old timer, you have to be careful. My sword. The power is about the same as the previous sword. But the power is more concentrated. But boy am I. What's the secret behind the mastery of swordsmanship? Finished. Loya's eyes suddenly condensed. Boom. Loya's hind feet crushed the earth. In the posture of a 20-meter giant. Run forward suddenly at high speed. Mysterious meaning. Just by running at high speed, the giant Loya already carries a destructive force that crushes the earth. He kept accelerating, when running 300 meters. The speed mentioned the fastest node. At this moment, both hands hold the sword. 100,000 dragon scales. More concentration, which means the attack range is very small. Rayleigh has a keen insight into the intelligence in Loya's words. So Rayleigh smiled slightly. Lift your legs and start to snake around at high speed. Kid, I won't be honest. I'll treat you as a target. I don't need your sympathy. But I didn't say I won't use small tricks. Because this is a life and death fight. However, Rayleigh thought it was a smart move. In fact, it's all within Loya's calculations. Since he told this information. Just don't care. Loya's pace stopped, but the huge inertia of running at high speed just now. Sliding forward quickly with Loya. The giant sword held in Loya's hands. Raise. Hakoku. No. 13 gr Yarchman above the mangroves. Kanu looked in Loya's direction in ecstasy. Bow. In the air, there was a slight sound of bubbles bursting. Kanu glanced sharply. No abnormalities were seen. So, continue to look in the direction of Loya. Star Ring Sword Cannon. Loya spat out the last words and struck a sword. Swing out. Mystery 100,000 Dragon Scales Hakoku Star Ring Sword Cannon. The Dragon Scale series of sword moves, the Star Ring series of sword moves, and the fusion of Hakoku's moves are all in one move. Boom. Too fast. Too fast. AR. Just like shooting a laser cannon. It has reached at least 100 times the speed of sound. A series of silver-white star rings. At the edge of the straight line of sword energy beams, they seem to appear at the same time in an instant. The existence of the star ring sword energy 3 to 4 meters wide. The main sword energy is restrained together. It formed a strip about 2 meters thick. Straight beam of light, at least 100 times the speed of sound. Shooting out with a bang. It takes less than 0.01 seconds to cover a distance of more than 100 meters. Can't hide. There is no way to hide. The moment Rayleigh saw the sword energy beam cannon. I was shocked and shocked. No matter how fast you are and how flexible your position is. There's no way to avoid it. On the contrary, because I thought I was smart in my position. Please give me flowers. Lead to. Rayleigh can only hastily defend now. If before that, be prepared for defense. On the contrary, I can cope with it more calmly. But now, he could only mobilize Haki in a hurry and coat his whole body with a layer of dark-armed color. And inject the long sword in your hand to form emission Haki, blocking it in front of you. It's going to be a serious hit for sure. The terrifying sword energy beam cannon, when it arrived 5 meters in front of Rayleigh. A thought flashed through Rayleigh's mind. Boo. In the air, it seems vaguely. There was a sound of bubbles bursting. Rayleigh feels incredible. The sound of bubbles bursting. Unless the bubble is just a few meters away from you. Otherwise, there is no way you can hear the sound of bubbles popping. Because the sword energy beam cannon coming from the opposite side is over 100 times the speed of sound. Therefore, the bursting sound of bubbles propagated at the speed of sound. The only possibility is that it is very close to him. Only then can it be transmitted to his ears first. Illusory shadow, transformed into an unusually tall real figure. It's like he emerged from the bubble. Super Bear's paw bounces away. Bartholomew Kuma appeared in front of Rayleigh. A pair of huge palms, facing the approaching sword energy beam cannon. Push forward boldly. Boom, boom, terrifying power. In an instant, the body of the tyrant bear was removed. Squeeze, push. The back of the tyrant bear slammed into Rayleigh's body. But Rayleigh felt that the power seemed not as strong as imagined. Immediately, his eyes narrowed. I was very surprised to see. The sword energy beam cannon soared into the sky and penetrated into the sky. Turn out to be. Rayleigh was pleasantly surprised and understood. Tyrant bear blocked. Oh no, to be precise. It was the terrifying blow that knocked Loya away. The tyrant bear was pushed back and hit him. It's just the remaining power of Loya's terrifying blow. And even though it was just the remaining force of this terrifying blow, it was enough to push the two of them back more than 100 meters before slowly stopping. Bartholomew Kuma. Loya was carrying the sword, and his body and the sword in his hand shrank at the same time. Loya looked slightly surprised, but still indifferent. There was no wavering due to the appearance of the tyrant big bear. It seems that there are already countermeasures for this. 8. Chapter 55. Are you okay, Your Excellency? Rayleigh, with a hint of fear. He asked the tyrant big bear with some gratitude. No problem. The tyrant bear glanced back at Rayleigh, replied briefly and forcefully, and then turned around to look at Loya in the distance. Loya, Doctor. The tyrant big bear looked at Loya and actually read Loya's name. I don't remember being so famous. Loya looked at each other with a smile. Doctor. Read my name and add a doctor. ... Single quote. The reason why the tyrant big bear knows about Loya. It's because he is in the Revolutionary Army and is mainly responsible for collecting intelligence. The reason why he is responsible for collecting intelligence is because of his powerful mobility after awakening his fruit ability. And the convenience of his status as a Shichibukai. And the reason why he knew about Loya. It's because Loya is a 250. Over the past few years, the tyrant big bear, a very famous doctor, wants to recruit Loya into the Revolutionary Army. His understanding of Loya, before this moment, was limited to doctor. How smart is Loya? This can be determined just from the doctor suffix on the tyrant big bear. That's why I find it interesting. In fact, Loya is not disgusted with the Revolutionary Army and even wants to support them. He just resents the prophecy of Straw Hat Luffy as the Destiny Child. And once Loya deals with the Straw Hats, Long, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, will not sit idly by. With this relationship, Loya does not want to have any conflicts or friendly interactions with the Revolutionary Army for the time being. Perhaps, after Long dies and the Revolutionary Army has nothing to do with Straw Hat Luffy, Loya will have friendly contact with the Revolutionary Army. At this moment, Loya made a joke. The tyrant bear never said a word. Hey, Bartholomew Kuma, if you're just passing by, don't disturb my duel with Senior Rayleigh, right? Loya waved his hands helplessly and said. Rayleigh also spoke at this time. Thank you very much for your help, but as Dr. Loya said, this is between him and me. I, Rayleigh, don't want you to get involved in Uzumaki and the fight, otherwise I will feel bad about it. The tyrant bear heard this. He remained silent and his face was stiff, as if he had never shown any expression in 10,000 years. Long told me that Mr. Rayleigh, when the time is right in the future, he may be able to be recruited into the Revolutionary Army. But Dr. Loya, I also want to try to recruit him into the Revolutionary Army. Dr. Loya's medical ability is probably the awakening level of Devil Fruit ability, which can greatly reduce the casualties of the Revolutionary Army. The tyrant bear said nothing. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't have any psychological activities. On the contrary, he has a lot on his mind. Loya was speechless when she saw the tyrant bear remain silent. Whizzing. 3. A sound broke through the air. Loya didn't even look back, knowing that it was Kanu coming over. That's all. I think you can't make a decision. Are you staying there? If you can't make a decision, then I'll make it for you. Loya said with a cold face, then turned and walked in the direction of the number 3 or Kichang mangrove tree. And waved to the oncoming Kanu. Go back. There's so much movement here, there will definitely be people coming later, don't run around. Why would I need your help? It's your business to guard that woman. But loyalty is commendable. Hearing this, Kanu let out a strange smile of, hey. And then turned around and returned the way he came. Rayleigh glanced at the tyrant bear who still had no expression or said a word. After nodding lightly in greeting, he also raised his feet and slowly chased after Loya. After all, Loya poisoned Shaki. Rayleigh has no way out. What should I do? Tyrant bear is thinking. Dr. Loya, what did you say to me just now? Then I have to follow. Only a confused person would carry a Bible with him. Bartholomew Kuma. That's the confused person. And Loya has long seen through Bartholomew Kuma's confusion. This person. 1 foot in the camp of the Revolutionary Army. 1 foot in the camp of scientists Vegapunk and Marine. Also, there's Shichibukai, a pirate who can legally plunder. He was once before joining the Revolutionary Army, a violent pirate who killed countless people. Hence the nickname, Tyrant. The tyrant Big Bear thinks a lot about life, the world, and everything. But because he thought too much, Uzumaki fell into confusion and couldn't extricate himself. He works for all powers. Pushed away by all forces. Because Vegapunk's experiment requires a test subject, he is willing to provide his body as the test subject. A completely confused person. He needs others to tell him how to determine the path. Loya came to the ruins of the rip-off bar, walked to the bar, and took out a video phone bug from the coat wrapped in Shaki. Dial. Bulu Bulu. The call was connected immediately. This image phone bug then shot out light from its eyes and projected an image. Loya is here, waving over there, it's me, bring people here. Understood as video call. On the other side of the video, Loya's subordinates heard this and immediately pulled over a pink-haired beauty with a seal on her mouth. The young woman was still struggling, whimpering. Bo. A subtle sound of bubbles bursting filled the air. The tyrant bear came here 1 step ahead of Rayleigh. Immediately, I saw the image of the phone bug. Paw, paw, paw. Loya clapped his hands, sat on a high stool, and spoke to the tyrant bear opposite. I said, since you can't make the decision, then I will make the decision for you. See this girl, tell me, is she your daughter? Jewelry Bonnie. Yeah, you are such a rebellious girl. How can you follow the same failed path that your father took? Pirate, how much is the reward? Wait, Bartholomew Kuma, you don't think I want to give Bonnie to Marine, do you? No, I gave it to Marine, come to the fishing field. 2.0, the price is just that as a father, you have to shed a layer of skin. But you don't care anyway, because you are about to go to Vegapunk for the final step of human experiments. At this point, Loya stopped. He went around to the back of the bar, got some drinks, and mixed them. Anyway, no matter what he said, the tyrant bear always had a stiff, silent face. Rayleigh came over and watched this scene. A few minutes later, Loya drinks her own cocktail. The tyrant Big Bear finally spoke. I can do things for you, please let my daughter go, Dr. Loya. She is a sinful pirate. Anyway, the tyrant Big Bear doesn't know yet that Loya has joined the Golden Lion and the bad things he has done. He can now stand on the stand of justice and use righteous words to deceive the tyrant Big Bear. Loya took a sip of her cocktail and said, evil thief like Jewelry Bonnie should be killed by everyone. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Chapter 56. There is no one-sided love. In other words, one-sided, that is not love. Love is interaction. From the original work Jewelry Bonnie, she must save her father at all costs, and her hatred for the world government, we can see that. Bonnie's deep affection for her father. As a father, the tyrant Big Bear provided Bonnie with strong paternal love, at least during her childhood. Love is interaction. Now, this interactive force has plunged the tyrant bear into a big crisis. Loya actually captured Jewelry Bonnie, secretly because she was a pirate. And he's not about to hand her over to Marine yet. In this regard, Loya is completely on the side of justice. As a result, the tyrant Big Bear is completely unable to defend himself. He can do it now. Just begging. Dead, or alive. That's what it says on Jewelry Bonnie's wanted poster, right? Loya sipped her cocktail, speaking coldly. Since you know that I am a famous doctor, you should also know that I am not short of money. How much does it cost to give it to Marine? Haha, if I save any wealthy businessman, it will start with hundreds of millions of belly. Loya's aggressive attitude. Rayleigh was a little angry about this. But Rayleigh is also a criminal pirate, once was, so he can't speak either. Sometimes, the banner of justice just works. However, Loya does not enjoy using other people's daughters to coerce her father. But the current situation is that the tyrant bear is too much in the way. The awakening level meatball fruit is simply a bug level ability, and it actually directly deflected his mystery 100,000 dragon scales Hakoku star ring sword cannon. It's simply terrible. This is not to say that Loya will feel that he cannot beat Tyrant Bear, or that Tyrant Bear is stronger than Rayleigh. Strength is multi-dimensional. Tyrant Bear's strength 24 is mainly due to his meatball fruit ability, and his physical strength Loya estimates that it exceeds 10,000 power. Rayleigh is a powerful conqueror's hockey, especially armament hockey, who is extremely powerful. Loya is confident in one-on-one combat against the Tyrant Bear, and has all the means to defeat the Tyrant Bear. But if the Tyrant Bear insists on interfering, he and Rayleigh duel. Then it will be difficult for Loya. After all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. They are all at the level of generals, and no one is too different from the other. Therefore, it will become extremely difficult to achieve one-on-one. Now that the Tyrant Big Bear has intervened, don't blame Loya for his dirty tricks. He catches Bonnie, except Bonnie is a beauty. Or is it because he has already thought about what he would do if he encounters the Tyrant Big Bear and gets in his way? So capture Bonnie first. I see you are speechless. Loya looked at the Tyrant Bear. To be honest, if he marries Bonnie as his concubine, Dashang will still be his father-in-law. Okay, talking to you is too laborious. Let me make the decision for you. First, marry Bonnie to me. I promise to make him happy for the rest of his life and full of grandchildren. This is no joke, but be truly open and honest. Khalifa, as Loya's woman now, has no way to get her family's blessing. Loya felt sorry for him. But other women, Loya hopes that they can all have a status, not just pure playthings. After all, when everything is over, it will be these women who will have the closest relationship with Loya for the rest of her life. Moreover, the Tyrant Big Bear is the king of Solbay Kingdom. Bonnie is a princess and can inherit the throne. If you can gain a country without spending a single soldier, why not? Haha, are you surprised? The purpose of capturing your daughter is to marry her. Loya smiled and stared into the eyes of the Tyrant Bear. The Tyrant Bear is more than surprised. At this time, he couldn't even turn a corner at all. Loya's thoughts are so wild and unconstrained that ordinary people cannot understand them. How much do you know about the Revolutionary Army? Do you want to join? The Tyrant Bear suddenly spoke. When the dragon dies, I will join you. Loya told the truth. Talk to your father-in-law openly and honestly. Sometimes, sincerity is the last resort. You want to kill the dragon. The Tyrant Bear narrowed his eyes. After blocking Loya's blow for Rayleigh, Tyrant Bear realized that Dr. Loya was not simple. Right, Loya smiled. Why? When the Tyrant Bear said these 3 words, he gently raised his hands and slowly took off his gloves. He didn't know when he put on his gloves. Taking them off at this time was a sign that he was ready to take action. The Tyrant Big Bear is optimistic about Long and his revolutionary cause. Although he did not place all his bets on the dragon, he placed multiple bets. I want to kill the dragon. But not against the revolutionary cause. Kill him because there is no room for 2 tigers in one mountain. I want to be the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Haha, are you surprised again? This is a secret that I keep very deep, but I only tell you because I want you to be my father-in-law. I hope you bet on me. Loya said these words. Rayleigh was stunned. Hero. An incredible hero. Rayleigh took a deep breath, and a thought flashed through her mind. At this moment, Rayleigh began to understand Loya's personality. The tyrant bear hesitated and paused in taking off his gloves. Do you understand revolution? The tyrant bear is extremely serious. Knows better than all of you. Loya said this almost shouting. As a Loya who grew up under the red flag and was influenced by revolution. In the world of pirates, no one understands revolution better than him. Why not start a new one? Lead another revolutionary team. Do you have to kill the dragon? Tyrant Bear asked again. This is the longest sentence he has ever said. This shows how seriously he takes this matter. Use your brain and think about it. If you start over again, if the two revolutionary armies cannot get together, they will temporarily work together to overthrow the world government. Is it possible for these two revolutionary teams to fight in the future? I'll kill a dragon. More killings could have been avoided. Maybe the dragon kills me, that's fine. But it's best to have only one revolutionary army. Loya said hard. Then he exhaled, picked up the wine glass, and drank the rest of the wine in one gulp. The tyrant bear lowered his head and looked around. There is affection between him and the dragon. Rayleigh stood aside and looked at Loya in surprise. He never imagined that Loya could be such a person. Reduce killing. Or daughter these words just to deceive the tyrant big bear. Rayleigh is a little confused. But I am more inclined to think that Loya is coaxing. Forget it. Loya looked at the confused tyrant big bear. Just watch what I do in the future. If you don't understand something, you can always come to me and ask me. I'm not saying this to make you fall to me. You should help Long do something, just go and do it. Even if you want to help the dragon kill me, it's up to you. Anyway, I regard you as my father-in-law, and I will never kill you. Loya is not cajoling the tyrant bear. It's all the truth. He is a man of openness and honesty. Whoever wants to believe him or doubt him is free to do so. But he is still him. But, Dr. Loya, with all due respect, don't you think it's ridiculous that you arrested Mr. Shang's daughter and then said these things? Rayleigh said suspiciously. You don't believe it. Loya smiled. Since ancient times, great treachery seems like loyalty, and great hypocrisy seems like truth. Loyalty and evil are never apparent on the surface. Maybe you saw me wrong yesterday, but today, you saw me wrong again, and maybe you will see me wrong again tomorrow. But I'm still me, and I'm never afraid of others misunderstanding me. Loya quoted Cao Cao's clear words in The New Three Kingdoms to reply to Rayleigh. Yes, Loya wants to be an emperor, not only for himself, but also for people of the world. Of course, more ingredients for themselves. Note that emperor is enclosed in double quotes. Rayleigh thinks Loya is really incredible. The most treacherous thing seems to be loyalty, the most falsehood seems to be true. What Loya means is that he will use seemingly evil and unfair means to complete the revolution. Rayleigh thought. Suddenly, Fukun thought of Roger. Before Roger was executed, he called on people to run to the sea, creating the era of great pirates. Rayleigh still can't understand this kind of behavior, and only thinks that Roger is trying to attract the child of destiny and fulfill the prophecy. But now, he seems to vaguely understand. Evil and unfair means are sometimes the price that must be paid to complete a great cause. Is Marine righteous? Fake justice? Or Roger and Loya really evil people? At least, Rayleigh recognized Roger and thought he wasn't. So, does Loya have to be a very evil person? Rayleigh was lost in thought. But, at least, Rayleigh felt that what Loya did to him and Shaki was a great evil. I'm standing in Loya's way. Lay 893 understands Loya's reason. And Shaki is just an incidental victim. So Loya has been letting his men guard Shaki, and he doesn't really want to hurt her. It's too complicated, Luya. Rayleigh's head was on fire thinking about it. The tyrant Big Bear also had his head smoldering when he thought about it. Simply don't think about it anymore. Just place your bet. Bonnie, the tyrant bear spoke. Yeah, I will definitely make her happy. Loya seemed to see through people's hearts and quickly coaxed him. Tyrant Bear feels like Loya is coaxing a child. You let her go first. Marrying you requires her own consent. The tyrant Big Bear said with some bitterness. She is a child who has her own opinions. Don't let go. Loya shook his head and smiled evilly. Bartholomew Kuma, don't get me wrong, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm informing you. And when I informed you, I only mentioned the first point. Loya raised 2 fingers and shook them, his evil spirit became even stronger. Second, make Bonnie king in 2 years at the latest. At that time, I had already married Bonnie, and maybe we both had children. I, Loya, am from your kingdom of Sobel. Regent. Loya put his hand away, walked to the video phone bug, and waved to his subordinates. He signaled his men to prepare their butcher knives. Only these 2 conditions. Loya stared at the tyrant Big Bear with sharp eyes. Promise me that your daughter will be happy for the rest of her life. You are my respected father-in-law. If you don't promise me, I'll kill her first and then you. No one can live. Loya's words were as good as a sword. A hint of Conqueror's haki comes out inadvertently. Loya blinked. He seems. Conqueror's haki suddenly grew stronger. Oh, is this still possible? The tyrant bear was sweating on his forehead. Rayleigh was also sweating on her forehead. I am also a conqueror's. Why, at that moment, did I feel a little afraid of him? Rayleigh was shocked inside. This boy has a bad temper. Chapter 57. No, you're not going to kill Bonnie. The tyrant bear's face was stiff and he said firmly. He has an iron will. Mount Tai collapsed in front of me, but his face did not change. Loya's eyes flickered. You're right, I won't kill Bonnie, even if you don't agree. Loya turned his attention to the video phone bug. A trace of crocodile tears burst out of her eyes, and she looked, affectionately, at the pink-haired woman whose hands and feet were tied with ropes. Honey, did you hear that? My father-in-law doesn't agree. After saying that, he raised his hand and said, you guys, cut off one of my wife's hands. Loya's words are a categorical imperative. The 2 men beside the pink-haired woman, who had already prepared knives, immediately began to execute it with cold faces. Doctor. Loya. The tyrant bear just spoke. He was forcibly interrupted by Loya. He turned around and raised his hand, pointing angrily at the tyrant Big Bear. You chose it. Blame me. But don't worry, I can regenerate severed limbs, but my wife can't die. It's just a little suffering, it's your choice. The tyrant Big Bear clenched his fists. You're too impatient. I still have a lot to say. You have to promise me first. Loya interrupted arrogantly. I know you have a lot of questions and a lot to say. But you can promise me first, and then say it slowly. When did I say that once you promise me, you can't go back on it? Did I say that you can see what I do in the future? The subtext is that if you are not satisfied, you can regret it at any time. The tyrant bear was speechless. Rayleigh felt like her brain was fuming again. There are actually people who take the initiative to ask others to repent. Loya's thoughts are really hard to fathom. Loya continued. I'm not God. Although I have confidence, I can realize the blueprint in my heart. But what if something unexpected happens? So I won't ask you, and I will never go back on it. Loya said this and looked at the other side of the image. What are you doing standing still? Cut it. Hearing this, the 2 men quickly raised their knives. The pink-haired woman cried, whimpering, against the seal, and the look of pear blossoms with rain was really heartbreaking. I promise. When the tyrant bear saw this, he immediately shouted. Hee, I know that my father-in-law still loves his precious daughter. Loya laughed triumphantly. He looked at the girl on the other side of the video and said, Wife, have you seen that my father-in-law loves you more than I do? After saying that, he closed the video phone bug. At the same time, in the cabin of a Buster Call-class battleship docked in Sabayati. Loya's 2 men immediately laughed after confirming that the video phone bug was closed. They tore off the seal on the pink-haired woman's mouth. And he untied the ropes binding her hands and feet. How about it? I acted very realistically, right? Especially the crying scene at the end. The pink-haired woman said with a smile. Loya-sama is really superb in acting. Sister, you feel that you performed a little too hard. A man said. Well, Lord Loya's acting skills must be better than mine. The pink-haired woman smiled and said. Then he stared at the 2 men with serious eyes. It's you too. Why did you stop before you were about to chop down? Do you think I'm afraid of this pain? If the tyrant Big Bear sees the clues, can you bear the responsibility? After being scolded like this, the 2 men quickly defended themselves. We are looking over there, Lord Loya is talking. Besides, it's all acting anyway, just showing off is enough. We wouldn't care if we really cut off your hand, eldest sister. You are confused. The pink-haired woman put her hands on her hips. Loya-sama bought us from the slave auction house and helped us remove our status as slaves. They also provide us with generous treatment. It's such a great favor. Cutting off one of my hands is nothing. Even if I give my heart to Master Loya, I won't even frown. Besides, why did Lord Loya turn me into Jewelry Bonnie for this show? It's because Lord Bonnie will be Lord Loya's wife in the future. If you can't bear it and ruin this scene, are you really going to drag Lord Loya's future wife over and chop her down? A few of us used to work as stage actors. The only role we can play for Lord Loya is to act well. If we can't even do this small thing, how can we face Lord Loya in the future? You two, please be careful. If you have to perform this kind of drama again in the future, I will do it without hesitation. Have you understood? Yes, big sister. My father-in-law, since you agreed to my 2 conditions. If you have anything you want to say or ask now, feel free to speak. Loya smiled triumphantly. Negotiation is about constantly breaking the other party's bottom line. This is the trick. It is better to let the tyrant Big Bear promise first, even if it is just a verbal agreement, than to make no progress and the situation remains in a stalemate. After that, you can grind slowly again. Rayleigh, who was watching, also reacted at this time. The so-called, "you can regret it," is actually just a way of saying something to make the other party feel that the cost of agreeing is very low. But in fact, once you promise and want to go back on your promise, you will be burdened with the psychological pressure of, "I broke the contract." The tyrant Big Bear is also a smart man, and he responded immediately after agreeing. But now that the words have been spoken, he thinks he can't do it if he immediately breaks his promise and breaks the contract. At the very least, if you want to break the contract, you must have a good reason. Otherwise, wouldn't he become a despicable villain who breaks his word and turns his back and is ruthless? Besides, Bonnie is still in Loya's hands, which is another layer of psychological deterrence. Dr. Loya really understands human nature. The tyrant Big Bear sighed in his heart, and at the same time he couldn't help but feel admiration. Dr. Loya, that girl just now, isn't actually my daughter, is she? Tyrant Bear said suddenly. She didn't act arrogant enough. My daughter, like me when I was young, has a very violent temper. Even if her hands and feet are tied, she will use all her strength to resist. She acted too weak. Even if someone wants to cut off her hands and feet, she will never cry. She will not shed a single tear under the coercion of power. The tyrant Big Bear spoke in detail, and a look of pride appeared on 10,000 Years' stiff and unchanging face. Loya looked at the tyrant bear in surprise. When Rayleigh saw this, he knew that tyrant bear was right. Since Mr. Shang has seen the flaw, Mr. Shang, why do you jiao still? I didn't see it at first, but the more I observed, the more I felt something was wrong. Finally the fake Bonnie started crying, and I was convinced that she was fake. Tyrant Bear replied, and if it's really Bonnie, I won't hesitate and will immediately agree to any conditions Dr. Loya has. So, Dr. Loya didn't catch your daughter, but planned to scare you with the fake Bonnie from the beginning. Rayleigh said dumbfounded. No, Dr. Loya should have really captured Bonnie, but... The tyrant bear stared at Loya deeply. I won't go into details anymore. Oh, Rayleigh was startled and couldn't help but glanced at Loya in surprise. Evil Dao Ruchang. One word flashed through Rayleigh's mind. At this moment, when I think about it, Dr. Loya clearly caught Bonnie, but he didn't bother to use a fake Bonnie to act. I began to feel that agreeing to Dr. Loya's conditions might be the right choice. Tyrant Bear said in a faint tone. Chapter 58. My father-in-law, let's get down to business. Loya put away his smile and said, let me guess, the first thing you want to say is, you will soon go to Vegapunk to conduct the final experiment. By then, you may become a real machine and lose your human will. So you can't see what I will do in the future. There's no way to supervise me. Is it right, Tyrant Bear? Exactly. Dr. Loya's wisdom is far superior to mine. Even a dragon might be a little inferior. His face remained stiff, but he felt surprised in his heart. My suggestion is to delay for a while, maybe the situation will change. Loya said, you are my father-in-law, and I don't want you to become a machine. As for what the changes are, I can't be honest yet. In other words, even I can't accurately predict the changes in the situation, so I can't make a promise to you. So be sure to delay for some time and wait and see what happens. The order ruled by the celestial dragons has been maintained for so many years, no less than a year or two. Sincere words. After hearing this, the tyrant Big Bear nodded slowly. I will keep your son-in-law's instructions in mind. This is son-in-law. Loya feels very happy after hearing this. Loya came through time travel in the physical body and has no family or even friends. At this moment, there are still some fluctuations in my heart. After a pause, Loya continued. My father-in-law, what you are going to ask next is probably about revolutionary ideas. I call it a triple revolution. The workers' and peasants' revolution, the scientific and technological revolution, and the economic revolution, the three aspects of revolution, the Trinity. Tyrant Bear's eyes lit up. Tell me more about it. Factory workers and farmers who farm the land are the foundation of everything, and they are also the people who are most cruelly exploited and live the most difficult lives. Rich businessmen and nobles have the actual power of each country, and they will not tolerate a decline in their luxurious living standards. And the huge amount of heavenly gold to be handed over to the celestial dragons will only increase taxes on workers and farmers. Once these two groups collapse, then the country will launch war against its neighbors. Of these two collapsed groups, some people joined the army, and some fled to the sea and became pirates. The so-called workers' and peasants' revolution is divided into two stages, upper and lower stages. The first stage is to launch an armed and violent revolution by workers and peasants, overthrow the regime of the nobles and kings who exploited them, separatist power through armed force, refuse to pay heavenly gold, and resume production. The second stage is to establish the political power of the workers and peasants themselves, to abolish the hereditary aristocratic system and to establish a new order. It seems to be similar to the concept of dragon. Tyrant Bear said. According to the original work, the news that Sabo killed King Alabasta caused an uproar in the Revolutionary Army. It can be speculated that the Revolutionary Army is composed of workers or farmers as the main body, and its action program is to overthrow the rule of the king and the aristocracy. However, under the current situation, the Revolutionary Army has not yet reached this point, but is making long preparations to unite workers and peasants. But nothing is absolute. The kings of some countries love their people. Loya added, according to the different national conditions of each country, the specific method of carrying out workers' and peasants' armed revolution requires flexible changes. If the members of the Revolutionary Army fanatically believe that killing all the kings will bring peace to the world, then such a revolutionary army is just a simple thug. One reason why Loya doesn't recognize dragons. It's based on this. The news that Sabo killed King Alabasta spread to revolutionary armies everywhere, triggering cheers and winning Sabo great popularity. No one understood the character of King Alabasta, and immediately fell into the frenzy of overthrowing the ruler. This kind of pathological and uncontrolled hate emotion has become the mainstream of the revolutionary army. This is obviously not what a qualified revolutionary army should have. After a pause, Loya continued. After Bani becomes king, I will lead the army as regent to carry out a top-down revolution in the Sobel kingdom. Establish a parliament composed of representatives of workers and peasants to control the actual administrative power of the country. The king only controls the army and is responsible for protecting the country and the security of the people. Kings can be hereditary and replaceable, but every king must be instilled in them from a young age that their duty is to protect the people and train them in combat and military capabilities. Before taking office, they must be in a huge square to greet the people who come to watch the ceremony. We solemnly swear to protect our people, protect our people's interests, and never interfere in politics. After a pause, Loya continued. But only a workers' and peasants' revolution without an economic revolution will never be sustainable. The so-called economy is composed of two parts, production and consumption, and business people (CEAC) are the key link to connect these two parts. I won't go into details. Let's see what I do next. The highlight is the technological revolution. Vegapunk, Geisa Brown, Germa 66's Kaji, Beasts Pirates Plague Quinn, South Blues Scientists. I will catch all the scientists in one fell swoop. Let them, under my powerful control, research technological products that benefit all mankind. I heard that Vegapunk has created a machine that can automatically make various delicacies without the need for a chef as long as there are raw materials. Loya said with a smile. Son-in-law, your intelligence capabilities are truly astonishing. Tyrant Bear said in surprise. When the time comes, I will find a way to evacuate the entire Egghead Island. Even move Egghead Island away directly. Place it under the protection of my wings. Loya said. Instead, move the island. It takes 2 people to do it. One is the Golden Lion Shiki. Another one is Blue Dragon Kaido. But Loya knows that neither of these 2 people can really be used by him. Therefore, Loya will find other ways first. Blackbeard underwent some kind of surgery in the Drum Country, and Teach's original, alien, physique allowed him to eat multiple devil fruits. Shortly after Operation Impel Down, Loya's target was Blackbeard Teach. If you can successfully find the secret from Blackbeard Teach, Loya can use permanent optimization to give yourself Blackbeard's physique and eat multiple devil fruits. Then the next target is the replica of the Blue Dragon fruit saved by Geisa Brown. Let's stop here for now. No matter how detailed I am, I can't even finish it in 3 days and 3 nights. Loya looked at her father-in-law and said. But to achieve this, first of all, I must have the power. I want to be strong myself, and I also need to have many strong men following me, and I also need to have a large and loyal army. Haha, the only way to quell the troubled times, to defeat the demons, and to restore purity to the world is through power. So, father-in-law, my methods will be more vicious. Senior Rayleigh, I respect him, but he must be killed. My father-in-law, if you have no other opinions, please leave first. Hear the words. The Tyrant Bear glanced at Rayleigh. Still a little unbearable. Son-in-law, don't you have any way to persuade the old gentleman to join you? Now, Rayleigh also smiled slowly. No need, Mr. Shang, I am old and my thoughts are pedantic. Although little friend Loya's ideals are indeed moving, if I had been a few dozen years younger, I might have been moved. Well, little friend Loya, I was only hostile to you at first, but now, my view of you has changed somewhat. However, the winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. Come, let me test you and see if you really have the power to finally reach the top of the world. Ha 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 ha. Rayleigh held the sword, turned around and walked away with a bold laugh. Please, die now. Loya drew his sword. He whispered with murderous intent. Chapter 59. Oh, near GR16, Admiral Kizaru is lost. While he was troubled, he immediately noticed something and looked towards the sky. The golden lion falls from the sky. He was 10,000 meters away and could only see a white rainbow extending from the island to the sea, so he could not determine the exact location. He flew randomly in the sky for a while, saw Admiral Kizaru, and landed. Both are characters with gold-yellow as the main color. It seems to be a kind of fate. Jihahaha, Admiral Kizaru. I just cooked for 2 juniors. It can only be regarded as a warm-up, but my hands are a little itchy. Come and play with me. Jia ha 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 ha. In fact, Shiki's Conqueror's haki is recovering and needs to be tempered in actual combat. After all, it had not been used for nearly 20 years. No matter how sharp the weapon is, it will probably rust. And a Marine Admiral is just the sharpening stone. It's so scary. I'm just a mere Marine Admiral, how can I be the opponent of the legendary pirate? It's better to let it go. Kizaru looked troubled. But Golden Lion didn't know that he was not afraid at all, but simply found it troublesome. Jia haha, it's really interesting to talk. The Golden Lion held the 2 swords and flew up. With a ferocious laugh, he flew towards Kizaru. No, 13 GR Yarchman Mangrove is more than 1,000 meters away. It's still the same battlefield. Thanks to Mr. Shang, I was able to avoid serious injury, and I was able to rest for such a long time and my strength recovered. Rayleigh held the sword in one hand and looked at Loya 50 meters away with a smile. I still say the same thing. As long as Senior says something, I will give him time to rest. Loya said sincerely. Haha, little friend Loya, my feelings for you now are like enemies and friends. Therefore, I will accept your affection. But if you lose, I will kill you too. Are you still sure you want to give me some time to rest? Rayleigh said with a smile. Certainly. Loya smiled confidently. Haki Tiancheng. Haha, what a terrible little devil. The rest of his life is to be feared. Rayleigh knew that what Loya did was not out of kindness, but out of tempering himself. Use an older generation strong man like Rayleigh as a whetstone to hone his blade. So how can the whetstone be easily broken? Before it was pure swordsmanship. Next, seniors, please pay attention. What I want to hone is my knowledge and speed of action. So I will fight you in close combat, and only attach a thin layer of emission to the blade to prevent the blade from being damaged during the fight. But I don't know how to use any weapon color, emission or entanglement on my body. This means that I must use my knowledge to avoid all your attacks in order to avoid injury. And predict your actions based on what he sees and hears, and rely on ultimate speed to injure you with close-range sword skills. And you, use whatever means you want. You can use any means. Loya introduced with a smile. I understand, it's as you wish, old man. Don't think I'm going to let you go. Rayleigh unfolded her posture with a smile. Now, I am in normal form. Loya smiled meaningfully and then stepped forward. With a high-speed shave, it turned into an afterimage and headed towards Rayleigh. At this stage, I will practice the combination of speed, movement and sight, hearing and color. What does normal form mean? Rayleigh is confident that she will never lose speed to Loya. While stepping back, I thought. He recalled Loya's transformation into a giant. Normal form, is this what you mean? The giant is the form that focuses on the Emperor of Power. Now that we use sight, hearing, color and movement speed, then the non-ordinary form should be something that focuses on speed. Haha, this kid is really unfathomable. If I want to kill him, it would be the easiest time to kill him in his normal form at this moment without using armed colors and tyrannical defense. Haha, this kid is really hard to figure out. He deliberately revealed his information to his opponent. But this is not a confident and invincible hockey. Maybe this guy can really reach the top. Roger, if you were alive and saw this kind of junior, your blood would probably boil, right? Think about it. A smile appeared on Rayleigh's face, and then her eyes suddenly froze. Facing the pursuing Loya, the sword comes out. Ding, 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 ding. The movement speed of the two reached ultimate, and a series of afterimages appeared in the air. Two similar long swords, continuously colliding in the air. A continuous, almost continuous jingle. The two had just officially fought against each other. About 3,000 meters away, there was a loud rumbling sound, bursts of explosions, and the sharp sound of the air being split. One after another, the extremely huge Yarchman mangrove slowly and horribly collapsed amidst the loud rumbling noises. Almost the entire island trembled violently. It was the battle between Golden Lion and Kizaru. In the middle of the battle, they both used their power seriously to create noise. But Loya and Rayleigh, who were fighting, completely ignored these shocking news from the outside world. Their intelligence and speed are brought to ultimate. ... Please give me flowers. There is no world inside the eyes. There is only the opponent and the opponent's sword. Ding, 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 ding. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The speed of the two of them is getting faster and faster. The sword in his hand is swinging faster and faster. Kanu was on the number 13 gr Yarchman mangrove tree. Watching this scene from a distance, his eyes were stunned. There were almost no figures of the two people in the air. Only the barely visible remnants of light and shadow were left. And the continuous sound of swords. Is this his normal form? There is absolutely no chance for me to win. Is this really a normal form? Rayleigh was getting more and more surprised. He originally hesitated whether to take advantage of Loya's normal form and find the right opportunity to inflict heavy damage. But after the actual fight, he discovered that, as expected, he had thought too much. Loya's speed, even in his normal form, can keep up with him, and he can also dodge his swift and exquisite sword moves. Close swordsmanship, body skills, speed, sight, hearing and color, none of them. Weaker than me. Rayleigh was shocked. They all began to wonder if they were really old and had declined in these aspects. Being old is really getting old, but there should be no decline in this aspect. It's just that my physical strength is a bit weak and it's difficult to sustain in a high explosion state. Should I use the armed color emission to hit him with a sword, and then take the opportunity to stab him? Such despicable thoughts appeared in Rayleigh's mind, which even he felt despicable. Because he now has two pressures. One is that it is difficult to sustain physical strength in a high explosive state. One is that Loya is now in a normal state. If the high-speed mode is used, how fast will it be? Ah, sudden. Loya pulled away and retreated 100 meters. Rayleigh was startled when he saw this. Old senior, please take a rest for 5 minutes. The quick attack and quick defense of both of us are almost perfect. We just played against each other in the past 2 minutes, which made me feel very happy. It's just a pity that the old man didn't use attacks like emission, he just used the same speed and insight as the kid. If you want fairness, you don't have to. Because after 5 minutes, the boy will use leopard-painted martial body form and the speed will be greatly increased. Be mentally prepared. After Loya finished speaking, he sat on the ground with his sword closed and his eyes closed, giving Rayleigh time to rest. Rayleigh was stunned for a moment, then smiled slowly and helplessly. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, he sat on the ground with his sword in hand and his eyes closed like Loya. Chapter 60. At about 3 minutes, Loya and Rayleigh stood up at the same time. Loya put his left hand on his chest and recited silently. Temporary optimization leopard-painted martial body. Immediately, Loya's physical form began to undergo some changes. All the muscles in his body shrank in size. The entire body shape becomes more slender and lighter. The biggest change is my legs. Especially the lower legs, which extend more slenderly and bend, making the feet look like animal feet. Behind him, a slender tail extended out. If Rob Lucci were still alive, he would definitely be extremely excited to see what Loya looks like now. Because Loya's leopard-painted martial arts body is simulated from Rob Lucci's paper arts martial arts body. Lucci's paper arts martial body is a beast man state in the form of a cat fruit leopard, which is returned to life in 6 styles, causing the muscles to contract very tightly and the body to become light and slender. To reduce the contact surface with the air during high-speed movement, thereby greatly reducing wind resistance, achieving faster speeds, and more flexible, 720 movements. Loya's leopard-painted martial body almost completely simulates Lucci's orc paper arts martial body. Although it is not a real zone and cannot obtain the increase in power, but other than that, there is almost no difference. Moreover, Loya also incorporated the expertise of several other 6 style masters into it. For example, the werewolf Jabra's free iron body means that in the iron body state, he can still move freely. Although the iron body skill has been wildly ridiculed by comic fans. But in the final analysis, skills still depend on the user. How can Loya's 10,000 power and the hardness of the iron body he uses be comparable to Bluno and others who have less than 1,000 power, or others who can have 2 or 3,000 power? So even though armament hockey is not used, Loya's iron body still gives him amazing defensive power. The paper arts fighting body is a state of life return, combined with the paper arts skills and a complete state. Therefore, every muscle in Loya has the consciousness to dodge independently. This allows Loya to have more energy redundancy and use observation hockey to predict the opponent's actions and carry out attacks. Rayleigh, while warming up, took a look at the lure. As expected, it is a form that focuses more on speed. Slenderer, lighter, and more explosive. Is this kid really only in his 20s? Where did he learn so many skills? Is it possible that you started practicing cultivation while you were still in your mother's womb? It's really surprising to think about it. He's just a monster. Rayleigh quickly stopped thinking about it and focused on warming up her body and saving up armament hockey. It is completely conceivable that what follows is a fierce battle that cannot be interrupted for even a second. If there is any mistake, you will be severely damaged and defeated in an instant. Whoosh! A very slight sound filled the air. Where Loya was originally, his figure has disappeared. Only a long sword stuck in the ground and a few faint dust clouds were left in place. Loya also started to warm up. He hadn't practiced much in this fighting form before, and it was very different from his usual body structure, so he needed to get used to it a little. The previous jauntization was just a proportional enlargement, so it was naturally much easier to adapt. Loya's warm-up method is also very simple, that is, running, jumping, turning, and turning around. When you warm up, you won't be at full speed, or you will just burst out at full speed for a moment and then slow down. But even so, His figure when running is still that of an ordinary person, even Kanu's naked eyes are completely unable to capture it. Too fast. Just the jogging speed during warm-up is comparable to the previous top speed in normal state. Boom, boom. A series of sonic booms occasionally sounded in the air. Loya speeds up a little and directly breaks the sound barrier, i.e. breaks the speed of sound. Although Rayleigh paid no attention to Loya and focused on saving armament hockey, a few drops of sweat still flowed from her forehead. The fight has not officially started yet. He felt amazing pressure. Wow. Several hundred Marines jogged to the vicinity of the Yarchman Mangrove No. 19 GR. The sound of bombings in the distance, as well as the occasional bursts of sword energy, made this Marine unit feel frightened. Who is Kizaru Admiral fighting with? The opponent should be the Golden Lion, right? They are Kizaru's subordinates. Come here to find Kizaru. There's no need to go, we can't participate in a battle at that level. From a distance, I saw the huge shadows of several Yarchman mangroves that had fallen to the ground, and felt the waves of shaking earth. The leader of the team, Marine Rear Admiral, shouted loudly, causing everyone to stop moving forward. We spread out to see if there are any people nearby who need rescue, or... Rear Admiral gave orders to Marine subordinates. But the words are not finished yet. In the air, I suddenly remembered a sonic explosion. Puff. Then there was a sound of blood spraying as the flesh was pierced. Wow. The Marine soldiers were horrified to see that the Rear Admiral's heart suddenly broke open and a large amount of blood spurted out. Rear Admiral let out a painful groan and immediately collapsed to the ground. Eyes wide open, dying slowly. Ah, Lord Rear Admiral is dead. A captain nearby yelled in horror. All the Marines were stunned. What happened? Why did Mr. Rear Admiral suddenly have his heart broken and fall to the ground dead? ... Marine was more shocked and confused than fear had spread. Immediately. Puff, 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 puff. Wow, 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 wow. Plop, plop, plop. One after another Marine soldiers, similar to the Rear Admiral just now, or had their hearts broken open and a lot of blood gushed out. Or a blood hole of several centimeters suddenly appears between the eyebrows. Or maybe the neck and neck are simply disconnected and the head falls off. Just a few breaths of time. From the front of the team to the back of the team, there is a distance of several kilometers. There were Marine soldiers in different positions, and suddenly the above-mentioned scene suddenly occurred. Ah! More than one Marine soldier, seeing this horrifying scene, began to hold his head and scream loudly. The atmosphere of terror instantly fell into the hearts of every soldier. What happened? What killed them? All the Marine soldiers looked around in horror. But in addition to the air, there was an occasional steam explosion. They found nothing. Is it a demon or a ghost? Anyway, something invisible killed Mr. Rear Admiral and others. Let's run. Maybe it will be our turn soon. The Marine soldiers were talking in panic, and someone shouted loudly. Sure enough, their voices just sounded. Puff, puff, puff. The sound of death. Coming again. Run. The remaining Marine soldiers could no longer bear the horror of this bizarre death. 2.9 shouted almost with a cry. In an instant, most of the Marine soldiers abandoned their guns and swords and hurriedly ran away with their heads in their hands. Some people are so scared that they run faster than a rabbit. Who is he? Come out. A few brave Marine soldiers, holding knives, bravely shouted into the air. And there is an unknown murderous maniac in the air. He responded to them immediately, leaving fatal bloody holes in their bodies. Kill 300, keep 30. Will the 30 surviving people no longer be able to stay in Marine because of fear? And it should spread fear and make more Marine soldiers want to retreat. But Sengoku and others should be ordered to keep silent. But Yu's mouth is sealed for a while, but it cannot be blocked for a lifetime. Haha. Loya, who had a leopard-painted martial arts body, warmed up a bit, ran here, found Marine, and suddenly became murderous, causing all this. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.